Welcome everyone to a special K&K show tonight. We have a little different audience tonight. We have a special guest. I am joined tonight by my sidekick, Mr. Kenny Kirkpatrick. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. I am not the special guest, but I will say I'm doing well and glad to be here tonight. Looking forward to tonight's show. I'm going to send it down to one of our guests tonight, Paul. Paul, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good, guys. How are you? I'm not the special guest either, but I'm very happy to be here. And I'm very excited to introduce somebody for our Rocky fans out there. Mike Kunda is, I guess the best way to call him is if you think you're a Rocky super fan, you might want to think twice. I thought I knew a lot. And after seeing Mike and some of his stuff out there, I was taken aback. And just a little background on Mike is that he has not only written a book called Cue the Rocky Music, kind of inspired by Rocky Balboa, kind of about going out there and pursuing your dreams. He has also, for quite some time now, done a Rocky tour called the Yo Philly Rocky Tour, which visits a lot of the hotspots and famous landmarks in the Philly area that were used in the Rocky movies. And this all kind of led to a sort of a documentary style movie called The Pretender, which came out a few years ago. Can now be seen on DVD and some of the streaming devices out there, which I just thoroughly enjoyed. And it's my pleasure to introduce Mike. And Mike, thank you for joining the crew tonight.
Guys, I don't know if I'm up to the task. I am sensing the level of testosterone in this room is like a supernova. I mean, have you guys all looked in the mirror? You guys are three of the handsomest guys I've seen. Maybe we'll get you guys doing a commercial for Beast Aftershave.
Yeah, hey, we'll take that. We'll take a commercial. Thank you, though, Mike. We all appreciate you coming on tonight, and we're just looking forward to this interview with you.
And Mike,
let's have some fun.
Rocky, do you mind if I call you Rock throughout the show?
Listen, you can call me anything you like.
All right, there you go.
Mike, just to get things kind of kicked off, maybe you can give us a little background on how you became a fan of Rocky, like how old were you when you saw it, and how your fandom of the movies led to the stuff that you're doing now.
So I was I'm only 5'10". I'm not a very tall person at all. So, and that's with hunting socks and a really good pair of Nike Airs. So I'm not very tall, but as a kid, I was very small, and on the schoolyard, kids pick on you. You're just a natural bullet point for that. I used to dress in superhero clothes. Actually, it was the Lone Ranger and Zorro when I was a kid. My dad was we weren't very rich growing up, and my dad he retired a master tailor. And what he used to do, he would take old shower curtains, towels, and clothes, and he would make these costumes for me. But I wouldn't wear them at Halloween. I would wear them year round. Now that's really weird at like Christmas to dress like Zorro. Nobody wants to hang out with you. You don't get picked for the wiffle ball teams, nothing. And you become more of a target. So after repeated beatings, and I probably contributed to that a little bit with my big mouth because that's all I had to fight back with. I was 11 years old, and I'd come home from a fight that didn't go my way. And my father gave me a little bit of advice, and he said, Mikey, Sunday night, this is 1979 now. He says, Sunday night, movie of the week, Rocky. It's about this guy. He's not a really great fighter, but he keeps trying. And so, maybe you could learn some tips for the schoolyard. And so I said, okay, it's my dad. Our dads are our dads. They're not going to steer us wrong. So I sat there, and in case my dad was right, I had one of those old-time recorders, and I actually audio recorded Rocky. Well, that night when those big white letters come out, R-O-C, bum, 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 I mean, I was, for the first time in my life, severely inspired. So I went to bed that night, but not before I took a magic marker. And on the back of a gray sweatshirt, I wrote Italian Stallion like Rocky had on his, because I have to become the hero or as close to the heroes I could because I didn't believe in myself enough. This was my crutch, and it would grow to be my crutch as an adult. A lot of people have gambling, drugs, alcohol, womanizing, whatever. For me, Rocky has been my crutch. So it kind of grew from that. But at some point, you have to put that away when you become a man and you get married and you have a house and responsibilities. Rocky's not going to pay the bills. Although I wanted to be Rocky with Sylvester Stallone. There's no real job being Rocky. And I tried boxing for about 13 seconds, and that was it. I like my face kind of where it is. So I said no to boxing and got into business, which, by the way, I got out of high school with like a D-. So that was my initial interaction with Rocky in 1979.
What's funny is that I'm maybe just a couple of years younger than you, but I never saw Rocky 1 in the theater either. I remember my parents getting a babysitter for me, and it happened to be a night when you're a kid and you have an occasional night where you can't sleep and go down to the living room, and my father's got it on. Now it's on network TV, so it's a couple years later, and I had heard about Rocky, but I'd never seen it. So we kind of had like this father-son moment where I missed the first like 15 minutes, but he got me up to speed, and I remember just being like hooked.
Nice.
And then like when the sequels came out, you're just like, ooh. Now Rocky 2, I think I saw on cable because I was 6 when Rocky 1 came out. I was 9 when Rocky 2 came out. So I was 12 when Rocky 3 came out. And I remember now it's like all summer long. That movie may have came out on Memorial Day. All summer I pestered my parents like, we see this movie. Can we see this movie? Can we? Finally, like Labor Day, I think we finally saw it in a theater. Yeah. And it was this rowdy theater in Jersey somewhere where like the Rocky Clubber Lang fight, you felt like you were at a real fight with the crowd just going crazy. It was, and totally. It all, with every sequel, it just kind of built up, my fandom and my momentum, getting more and more into these movies. But that's how it kind of came about to me. But so was Rocky 2 the first one you saw in a theater?
No, Rocky 3, actually. Rocky 2 I saw in home box at my friend Bobby Gasper's house. He lived 3 doors away, and my parents, we didn't have home box. We couldn't afford it, but he did. And I saw Rocky 2, like, oh man, I saw this like a year and a half ago on TV. Oh, Rocky 2. And so we watched the whole thing, and it literally, how like the mob cements guys' feet and throws you into the river? I was cemented into Rocky. That was it. I was just cemented into the mythology of Rocky, and it never ever left me. It's basically tattooed on my heart forever. So,
and Mike, or I should say Rock, what makes the Rocky series unique, in my opinion, as opposed to other sports movies, is the sequels. A lot of sports movies that come up with sequels, I'll use one as an example, Major League. The other ones were nowhere near as good, but the Rocky series to this day, they're still making sequels, and we're going to get into that a little later, but it just makes the Rocky series that much different than any other sports movies. Is all the sequels.
Yeah.
And the people do not get tired of the series, Well,
that's very true. That's very true. And another key thing, I think a lot of people miss it too. And I understand you guys are sports guys. So, and most people always say Rocky it's a sports movie, but really boxing is it's maybe 7 minutes of the movie, maybe 9 minutes. It's a love story. It's really a Cinderella love story more than a boxing movie. And I think that's the key ingredient, is this love story. Why we see this humble stumble bum not going anywhere until he meets Adrian. I mean, he met her, but until he gets connected with Adrian. And I think it's the love, for me, I should say, it's the love story, I think, that puts it over the top. Because you make a great point with Major League. Like, I would rather, instead of seeing Major League 3 or 4, I would rather take like a replica of the Statue of Liberty and shove it in my ear.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
But with the Rockies, there is, even Rocky 4, as horrible as Rocky 4 is, and as outrageous as it is.
Kurt likes Rocky 4, so be careful.
I do like Rocky 4.
Denver, Rocky 4. No, but here's the thing with Rocky 4. It's not that it's a horrible movie. I love Rocky IV. It's my least favorite Rocky, not because it's so much horrible, but because it's so far away from the Rocky I believe in. Rocky I, Rocky II. It's like I understand characters evolve. For me, the height of evolution for Rocky was Rocky III. That was natural. I could see Rocky honing his body down, getting a little cut. I get that. The money's going to change you to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. But Rocky IV was so ridiculous. Like, just one quick question. Rocky IV, great training montage, great music. Running through the woods, snow is up to his thighs. He's got the sheepskin on. He's carrying the log, goes across rivers, up the side of a mountain, onto a cliff. Drago! And the sun is setting. Now he's on the peak of a mountain. How does he get back to the cabin? Have you ever run in snow up to your thighs? I don't care if you're Rocky.
You see the sled he was dragging on right the way out
the sled. Okay? It's just, forget it. Now, one more analogy, and then we'll go on to whatever you want to talk about. The one thing I love, and I get people cracking up on this all the time, Rocky II. Runs through the streets. The kids are following him. It ended up being about 780 kids that they brought in. They bust in for the scene. He's at the top of the steps. He's jumping around, right? Throwing his punches. Music's blaring. The kids, Rocky, Rocky. And then it cuts to Creed and Rocky in bed. Go back to the top of the steps for a second. Rocky's, well, time to go home. How does he get home? How does he get home? So I asked Stallone one time, and he goes, "You're overthinking it, Mike." Love it. I go, probably.
What about all those kids? They got to get home in time for dinner.
Just go. Just go. You know, I was with Paulie come by in the Trans Am. Hey, Rocco, Lisa, come on, Rocco. I mean, does Rocky have like change? Does he take the subway home? Does he take the? I don't know. You know, it's just one of those things. Suspension of belief.
How did you conceive the idea of doing the tour, and how did that come to you? And did it hit you overnight, or is something you planned for a while, or?
So I'm not a very ambitious person at all. I'm kind of like the opposite of ambitious. In 1990, my then girlfriend, my now wife, Sue, we were in my mother's basement watching Rocky on VCR. And I paused it, and we're in Scranton at the time. And I said, hey, let's get on to Philly tomorrow. Let's see if we can find some of these locations. And she goes, we've only been to Philly like twice. We don't really know the city that well. She goes, how are we going to find them? So I said, okay, number one, I paused the VCR on all the strategic neighborhood scenes, and we took Polaroids of those paused images on the TV. So I had maybe 30 Polaroids, and then I had a map. And then about a month before this, I had seen on PBS a special on subways in America. And they did Philly. They had a small section on Philly. And in Northeast Philadelphia, up in Kensington, is one of the very few sections where the L is above the street. And so I said, if I can get to this Kensington, I can have these pictures, because we know Rocky is literally walking underneath the elevated train. So I said, if I could just get there, I think we could find it. So we drove around for about 10 hours in a horrible 83 Dodge Ram that you could literally Fred Flintstone it. The floor was so rusted. It was horrible. But we drove down the turnpike from Scranton in it, and we found some of the locations and, took pictures, whatever. And I went home, and on the way home, my wife said, boy, what isn't that amazing? She goes, so somebody should like develop a tour about this. And I go, yeah, but how you going to market it? It's thousands of dollars in marketing. And I'm no business kind of guy. I said, I barely got out of high school. So I put it on the back burner. Well, then a couple of years later, Google Earth comes around. So I start clicking around Google Earth. And I said, okay, I think I found some other locations. So I'm going down to South Philly on my own. I park on South Broad Street, and I literally go from business to business. And I just ask them, hey, did they film Rocky around here? Some people kicked me out of the store. Some people said, sure, go down 3 blocks, take a right on Carpenter. There you go. He walks to La Murillo. And that's how I found it. So I wrote all these addresses down. And again, I put it away. And then Facebook came around. And one day I said, well, wouldn't it be interesting if we revisited that tour idea? So I rented a big yellow school bus. I used Facebook as a meeting page. And I had, for one weekend, we're going to have this Rocky film tour. So I rented out a floor of the hotel in Philly, and I rented out the Victor Cafe, and I had grown friendly with several people who actually had speaking lines in the movie. And so they would come on the bus at various locations where their scenes were filmed. I was dressed as Rocky, and we had people from all over the world take this tour. It was incredible. The tour was actually 3 days. And then we had, it was crazy because there's almost 85 locations that they use for filming. So you taking 50 people off a bus and taking pictures and getting 50 people back on a bus takes time. So you got this big yellow bus going through the narrow streets of Northeast Philadelphia. And it was a nightmare and it was a blessing at the same time. But after about 3 or 4 times I did this, my wife was like, we're in the hole a couple grand here. She goes, there's got to be a better way. So I used my my Kia Rio, and I could only fit like 4 people in there comfortably. So I started driving around in the Kia Rio, and I had these 3 Samoan brothers who were very large, and they all had a great time. But at the end of the tour, they said, one build, maybe get a larger vehicle besides. Okay. So that's when I started going with family vans, like an Odyssey or whatever. And that's what I use now. And the tours have gotten better and better and better. And I've streamlined the process. We went from 3 days to 3 hours, and I cram in as much information as I can. And I found shortcuts to a lot of the sites. My driving, I know the city very, very well, which has contributed a great deal to reducing it. So that's a very long answer as to where the tours originated.
I got a quick question for you about the tour, Paul. If you just let me real quick question for him. What's your 3 favorite locations on that tour to show people?
Rocky's apartment from the first movie, 1818 Tusculum Street, Mighty Mick's gym. Mickey's gym is pretty. That's probably my favorite because right there you've got the pet shop. Well, the pet shop's gone now, but the pet shop was right across the street. You've got the bar from Rocky V, and of course you had the Rocky V fight right there. All the Rockies had some footage taken here, with the exception of 4. And my third location, I'd have to say the Italian market, because when I go through the Italian market, I do 2 tours a day, and when I go through, every so often the guys will throw an orange into the car window and they all yell, "Hey, Rocky, Rocco." And so when people are in the car, I've got the fedora on, and I affect the Stallone thing because this is me now, but with the hat on, and that's like Charlie. He runs the fish stand here. How you doing, Charlie? Yeah, you just have fun with it. And people, it's the last part of the first third of the tour. So the tour is kind of like in 3 parts, and this is the last of the first third. And people are really trying to figure me out by this point. Some people are bought in, some people are not bought in. They don't know where I'm at yet. And so by this point, once they see I'm a thing in South Philly, they're like, wow, okay, we got something going on here. And I see people come together at that point, which is nice.
And I think you got to have Mike for the tour is find a Mickey lookalike for the gym.
Kenny, that's not a bad idea. That was something I toyed with a few years ago when they knocked down Adrian's pet shop. These buildings are all over 100 years old. I said to myself, oh boy, it's not going to be good if they knock down Mickey's gym and then put in like a CVS or a Walgreens. So I'm like, I have no control over that. So what do you do? So then I thought, well, what if I hired a guy like an actor? What if I hired an actor like Paulie and an Adrian, and gave them some history, gave them some lines, and I text them 5 minutes before I get to the pet shop where it was. And they come walking down the street, and the guy goes, "Hey, Rocco, how you doing, Rocco?" And then, you just talk to me, "Oh, Paul, I thought you were dead," and you just have fun with it. And then Adrian, and then I thought maybe that could work. That could conceivably work. So that's an idea that's in the back of my mind. So we'll see.
You could always bring in a Tony Gazzo to the tour too.
You know what about Gazzo? I don't know if you guys know this, but one of the things Sly mentioned, originally Gazzo was Rocky's older brother, and Gazzo took care of Rocky. That's why he kept him around. And do what I tell you to do. You don't do what I tell you, Rock. It makes me look bad. I got it. So. But the producers all said, no, we want Rocky to be his own entity, no family, nothing. And that was probably the wiser choice. So Stallone had to go back and scribble out Tony Balboa and write Tony Gazzo. But Joe Spinell, who played Gazzo, was not the original Gazzo. There was another actor who Sly never told me his name. About 2 hours into filming, he blew up at everyone and said, "This is going to be the worst movie in the world. I'm out of here." And he walks off set.
Wow.
And Stallone is like, "What am I going to do?"
That's funny.
He goes, "Wait a minute. I got a friend out in New York." He goes, "His name is Joe Spinell. He's a character actor. You may know him from Maniac Cop 1 and 2. Because he's pretty good. He was in the Godfather. Yeah, of course. Exactly. So he gave Spinell the lines over the phone. Spinell gets on the train, learns them, shows up. He's Tony Gazzo.
I think he was perfect for that role. I
The
mean,
best.
just perfect.
The inhaler, when Gazzo takes the puffer?
Unscripted.
Unscripted. That's a story that is out there. That's on the documentary and so on. But it's interesting. He was so self-conscious about that. He tells Avildsen, the director of Rocky, no, I could do it better. And Avildsen goes, no, we're going to use that. That's beautiful. That's real life. And that's why it stayed in.
Actually, I think it is a good segue into the next topic. One of the things I love learning little tidbits like you shared there. I never knew that about Gazzo. Some of the other stuff you hear out there, like Ken Norton was the original choice for Apollo Creed and stuff like that.
Oh,
It didn't work out. And who would be? I can't picture anybody but Carl Weathers playing Apollo Creed, but that's beside the point.
Sure.
The stuff about deleted scenes in these Rocky movies, man, it's like the three of us, man, it's just like any type of cut footage. As soon as those Creed 2 things came out on YouTube, I was like, oh, gimme. Like he just, Now, this is what I know, and maybe you could verify if I'm right or wrong. Stallone has said that the Rocky 1 deleted scenes got destroyed by MGM. And we've seen still shots. One of the things I love that you do on your Instagram is that you put those still shots out there. We saw some recently in Rocky 2 and they go like crib shopping for the baby and like, whoa.
Rocky's got to hock his watch. You need a good, you want to have a good time. You need a good watch. Yeah. And Rocky's got this forlorn look on his face. He's handing it over at a pawn shop because, he's not fighting and he's not good at anything else. Yeah. So anyways, back then, there was no concept of behind the scenes. There was no idea. So they had miles of footage. Where are they going to store it all? So they had to burn it. Once the movie was cut and distributed, all that was burnt. Now, there's one set of film that is Stan Shaw. You guys know who the actor Stan Shaw is?
He's Dipper.
He's Dipper, yes. Stan Shaw has the deleted scene where Apollo comes to the gym where Rocky's training. It's the scene where Mickey puts the string on his legs, on his ankles to keep him balanced. It cuts to him going to see Adrian, but before it cuts to that, Rocky's hitting the bag and he's a little off balance because of this string he's got to adapt. Apollo Creed opens up the door with a film crew and comes into Mickey's gym to try to throw Rocky off and to unsettle him. And Mickey's like, what the hell is going on here? And so, it ticked everybody off, but that's okay. It was being handled. Now it's Rocky, Mickey, Little Mike. Dipper, played by Stan Shaw, is very angry and he's very jealous. He thinks he should have the shot at champ. So he gets
He's
in
a
Rocky's
contender.
The contender. Exactly. He could have been a contender. So he gets in Rocky's face and he goes, "Hey boy, get down and kiss my feet." And Rocky doesn't want to do it and he wants to knock him out. And Mickey's telling him, "Don't do it, Rocky. He wants you to hurt your hands." And so Apollo Creed, everyone's backing up because it's very tense. And Dipper's in his face. And Rocky bends down like he's going to kiss his feet, and he explodes with 2 uppercuts, and Dipper goes falling, and that scene was deleted. They took that scene out because they thought punching the beef was better with Duke watching, and they were right.
Still would love to see that scene, though. My God.
You can see pictures. I have about 60 pictures of that moment that go in succession. So if you remind me to send you the link where all these deleted pictures are of many scenes.
That'd be awesome.
That would be great.
Here's another one
all
for
the
you.
still shots. Now,
Oh yeah. Do you remember Rocky comes running down the street? He's throwing punches, and Adrian is up on the porch. She's got the red coat. She's got the hat on, and she gives him butt kiss. On the front porch where she's standing is a bag, a brown paper bag. I have wondered for decades what is in that brown paper bag. And I asked Sly about 2 years ago, and he told me. Do you remember the powder blue Win Rocky Win t-shirt from Rocky 2?
Yeah.
She gives it to him in Rocky 1. That was in the bag. The other 2 items, when you go into Rocky's apartment, as a matter of fact, while I'm telling you the story, I'll see if I can pull up these pictures really quickly. In the bag, okay, here, for instance, here's Rocky's apartment. You see the shelves that are built into the wall?
Yep.
Okay, no curtains. All right, now hang on. Hang on here. It's hard to see, but you can see
the Rocky's in lighting there. That's,
yeah. Hang on, I'm gonna see if I can just. It's not working for me. I don't know why this one won't show. Anyways, there were curtains that Adrian hangs there. Okay, and the third thing was the Christmas wreath. So the night before the fight, Rocky can't sleep, puts his coat on. He goes to open the door to go to the arena. As he opens the door, there's this giant Christmas wreath right there. That was the third item, along with the curtains and the shirt that was in the bag. How do we know that? Well, in these deleted pictures that I'll send you, they show it. Also, Stallone told me, so I was very happy to get that right from the stallion's mouth, which was kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
The thing about deleted scenes, I've seen deleted scenes from Rocky Balboa, Creed 1, and Creed 2. Mm-hmm. What about Rocky 2, 3, 4, and 5?
They're all out there.
They are all out there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and the reason, this has nothing to do with Sly. Sly would love for them to be out. But the studio, I have to be careful how I phrase this. The studio is run by people who I'm not sure understand the value of Rocky and what it means to the fans. They have no real interest in putting out these deleted scenes. Think about it. If they repackaged the DVDs, especially from 2 through the Creeds, and loaded it up with deleted scenes and some rare, hard-to-find interviews, which they have, think of the money they could charge us fans that we would pay. I would pay hundreds of dollars for something like that. But they don't want to do it. I don't know. It's crazy.
Kenny and Kurt, any other questions on the topic of deleted scenes?
Mine's going to go a little off the cusp of deleted scenes. I know there's a lot of like alternate endings and stuff like that. I believe, what was it, the Rocky Balboa one you showed me where he wins, right, in the alternate? Does he win the one in the alternate?
Win, lose, and tie.
an alternate end. Oh, they made a tie too.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw the. I saw the win one. Was there any of those in the early Rockies?
Well, yeah, in Rocky 2, there's a whole ending where Adrian shows up at the fight and Rocky has her in the ring and he carries her. He's on top of the shoulders of the fans in the ring and he's holding Adrian up. Yeah.
And Rocky 3 or 4 or anything?
So Rocky 3, not so much ending wise. They were always pretty clear about the ending. Rocky 4, just a lot of deleted scenes. Here's one cool deleted scene from Rocky 4. So the Agrodome in Canada, I guess I don't know if it's still there or gone or whatever, but that's where they filmed the fight with Rocky and Drago. And they didn't just dress the boxing arena. They dressed the hallways around it. So when you got off the bus and when you showed up for filming, you walked into the door, it was like a Russian Madison Square Garden. There were Russian guards all the way around. The Coke and Pepsi, whatever, the products were all in Russian. There was a giant awards case with Drago's awards and other Russian athletic awards there. You swore you were in 1985 Russia. And they used some filming.
Rocky 4 throwback for you.
That's beautiful. I'm telling you. I mean, any fan worth their salt is going to have something like that. I love seeing that stuff. I never get sick of it. So they have all this stuff is out there, and it's such a shame to me. It literally is a crime that they have it all locked up and refused. Now, maybe they're planning something with the 50th, but I'm fairly sure they're not. But, who knows?
Well, did you hear? I kind of had this on my list of questions, but it's since we're talking about it, I'm sure you heard. It came out on Instagram. Stallone said there was going to be a director's cut release of Rocky 4, and he had stuff that he called like tremendous. And I would imagine that would have some of this footage. And of course, there used to be those little novels, those Bantam books, and there was so much stuff in those books that didn't happen in the movie. Where are there scenes for that? Like Adrian was pregnant with the second kid. I'm like, I read that. I was like, what is going on here?
I believe in Rocky 4, we realized what happened to Gazzo. Because we did in real life after Rocky 2, Joe Spinell and Sly, for whatever reason, they didn't talk as much. So he didn't put him in the Rockies. But in that Bantam book, in the novelization, Gazzo was found with a bullet in the head and Buddy, the driver, was found with 2 bullets in the head. So that's what happened to those guys. Who knows? Maybe Sly will put it. He wasn't supposed to say anything. That was supposed to be kept quiet. But Sly's a bit of a spoiler at times, so he put that out there. He can do what he wants.
Exactly.
It's his baby.
Yep. Definitely. I was just going to ask. Kurt's on the same page with me, so we're on Stole My Thunder about alternate endings. So I think if you want to go into the next topic, Paul, I was going to ask pretty much. I'm not a fan of alternate endings. I like that one ending to a story.
I understand that.
That's it. But that's so I was on. Kurt, you stole my thunder about the alternate endings. So
Talia Shire had an idea when Stallone came to her. Originally, she was alive in Rocky Balboa, but she was doing what she did in Rocky 2. No, Rocky, you can't fight. Remember Rocky 5? Brain damage. And so he's like, why are we going to watch Rocky fight at 59 years old? I mean, as great a shape as Stallone is, a 59-year-old boxer ain't going to cut it, all right? George Foreman barely did it at 40, what was it, 45, 48?
45.
45? Okay. So, you're really pushing it. So he was a little frustrated with that. And so between him and Burt Young, they come up with this idea to kill off Adrian. Rocky's not exactly a psychiatrist type of guy. So Rocky would have these little club fights to fight the beast, get the grief out. And Talia had this concept. Why don't we open up with Adrian in the hospital bed and everybody's around, nobody's talking, long faces, we know what's coming. And she tells Rocky she wants to have a drive through the old neighborhood. So Rocky takes her, puts her in the white van, drive around, carries her to the pet shop, which is now closed. And she dies in his arms on the pet shop. I want to see that but I don't want it in Balboa. I don't want to deal with having her death on screen. It's right up there with having to see Rocky die on screen. I don't want to see that.
That was the original concept of Rocky V. It was in the script that he was supposed to die. I don't think they ever filmed that, but he as they were filming Rocky V, he changed it.
Yeah, the producers told him they had to. The producers halfway through, and that was one of the problems with Rocky V. Now, I like Rocky V very much, but I also acknowledge there are some issues with the movie. But halfway through filming, they get a call. Hey, Sly, you know that ending, Rocky dies? Not going to happen. What do you mean? We're filming up to this point. What are you talking about? He goes, well, listen, there's a few things you just don't do. You don't kill Superman, you don't kill Frankenstein, and you don't kill Rocky. That's just it. Glad they didn't do that because, in my opinion,
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Well, look at all the movies we were missing out on.
Yeah.
Look at all the money they're missing out on.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So I'm glad. A lot of people are frustrated with the Creed universe. I'm not frustrated with the Creed universe. I don't particularly care for Adonis Creed. I think he's too much of a crybaby, and I have no interest in him and his girlfriend. I felt no chemistry between them. I think Tessa Thompson, who played Bianca, I think she's a wonderful actress, and I think Michael Jordan is a very good actor. But Michael B. Jordan was always crying about, or Adonis was always crying about his legacy, where Rocky just went and he did it. He did it. And I don't know. I don't identify with it. I don't know.
I enjoyed the Creed movies a lot, and I thought Creed 1 is one of my favorites in the whole franchise.
Yeah,
Creed 2,
it's
I was very skeptical of Creed 2 when I heard what the plot line was.
Mm-hmm.
They really, I thought, pulled it off pretty well. I just don't know if you can go anywhere. Like, I don't know where else you go from here. And how many more, like, friends or relatives of other people in this universe can you tie in? You've already got all these coincidences, and you got Apollo's kid and Drago and his kid. Come on. Now, I heard they just gave the green light to Creed 3, but I don't know what the heck they have in store for me.
I don't know, and I really don't care. Let me be careful here.
It's obviously going to include Rocky, though, isn't it?
Nah, he doesn't want to
know that.
So he's definitely
he
not.
sound crazy about it.
I don't know how grateful the director and Michael B. Jordan were to have Sylvester Stallone in their movie. I don't know that they were maybe as grateful as they could have been. I'll just leave it at that.
Here's a wild thought. Rocky IV, Creed dies from Drago. Drago's have a son that's a boxer now and comes to fight Creed in Creed 3. I'm just throwing a wild idea out there. I'm just throwing like Paul said, they're running out of ideas. So that's just a wild, bold idea.
I think Bridget Nielsen gets in the ring and she fights Creed. Her and Flavor Flav get together and destroy Adonis.
She took an alarm clock to the face.
Exactly. Can you imagine? Who were you married to? Oh, I was married to one of the planet's biggest icons and a very rich man, Sylvester Stallone. Oh, okay. Didn't work out? No, it didn't work out. Who are you with now? Flavor Flav.
Don't forget Mark Gastineau.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. A sack dance.
Paul, I want to do a little rapid fire with Mike.
Yeah,
all right,
go
Mike.
for
This is a little segment Kenny and I we always do on our K&K Sports Show. So, it's a couple hypotheticals, couple of personal questions, and then just since you're the Rocky guy, so a couple rapid fires for you. All right.
Sure, go ahead.
Who wins, Clubber Lang or Drago?
Drago.
Okay. Best steak sandwich that I could go right now and get in Philly. Where am I getting it?
I haven't had one in 20 years. I would say Pat's or Jim. Pat's is a bit of a tourist trap, but I would have to say Jim Steaks on South and 4th.
All right, I'm going to write that down. All right, in your opinion, what was Rocky's best in-ring performance?
His best moment or best performance all the way through?
All the way through.
Rocky III, second fight with Clubber Lang.
Okay. Rocky needs one trainer today to win the title. Who's he taking as his trainer?
Mickey.
Okay. Which Rocky victory was most meaningful to him, to himself?
Rocky won. His loss was his most meaningful victory.
Okay. And then who's the biggest villain in the Rocky movie series?
Toss up between Tommy Gunn. I'd have to go with Tommy Gunn because Drago, much to my wife's chagrin, redeems himself at the end of Creed 2 by throwing that towel. You know, I'm sure people are going to argue with my answers. I got to say Tommy Gunn.
Okay.
Tommy was unforgivable. He broke Rocky's trust when he didn't have to.
Okay. That was it. Quick rapid fire with you. So,
I love that stuff.
All right.
Yeah, I love the hypotheticals there. Yeah. I always wondered, like, my favorite villain was Clubber. I just thought at the time, you know, trash talking existed, but I felt like he made it mainstream. And you're like, wow.
Well, okay. So maybe I misunderstood the question. On my tours and in life, my favorite opponent is Clubber Lang. One, for the name, Clubber Lang. Brilliant. The imagery of Mr. T was just perfect. He was the prototype Tyson. He was Tyson before Tyson was Tyson. So Clubber Lang is my favorite. I loved him all the way around. But Tommy Gunn, to me, I don't know, he was more villainesque. Like emotionally, he was a villain because he screwed up Rocky. Yeah.
I see Mike's point. Yep, I agree.
Yeah, because Clubber Lang, he's an intimidating physical guy.
Clubber, yeah.
But there was no friendship between Rocky and Clubber. You know what I mean? There was no bond that then Clubber Lang broke and stabbed him in the back, which is why I think even more so than Drago. Drago was just a product of the Cold War, of the Soviet Union. He was a product of the environment. We see that in Creed 2, which, by the way, I want at least a 3-part Netflix Drago miniseries. I want a Drago book. I loved, even though I did not like the Creed, I didn't overly care for the Creed movies. I loved the Dragos' interactions with each other. Florian Mutnow, is that how you say his name? Who played Baby Drago?
I'm not sure, but yeah.
I'm not sure either.
He looked nothing like Drago, but he was perfect for the role. It was amazing. It's amazing.
I thought Dolph Lundgren, for a guy who only said about 5 words in Rocky 4, I thought he did a great job in Creed 2.
The way he delivered, totally. I was so proud of Dolph Lundgren. There was this weird moment where I had him and Stallone laughing at the same time. It was on the set of Creed 2, and I was there at the restaurant the day they were filming the confrontation between Rocky and Drago. And about halfway through, even though it's a night scene, they put a big black tarp around the window and the doors to block out all the light. They filmed that scene during the day. So about 3 hours into it, they took like an hour break. And at the end of The Pretender, that's some of the footage that was taken with Stallone and I speaking to each other. That's the stuff. That's where this was all taken, because Stallone has got the hat on and the sweats like Rocky. So we're going back and forth, and we're telling these goofy, funny stories, and Stallone and I are making each other laugh, and it was really a surreal moment. What nobody knows is 2 feet behind me and 6 feet just out of camera range is Drago, just standing there listening to me and Sly talk. And I tell Stallone this story of how my grandfather gave me his old black fedora and leather jacket to wear when I was 13 to boost my confidence, because he knew I liked to dress like my superheroes. I remember Drago just going, oh God, like, that's crazy. And I'm thinking, holy cow, are we in 1985? Because here's Drago, the Italian stallion. I mean, what's happening? It was so bizarre. And at that point, I felt myself going into fanboy, giddy worshipness. And I said, you better hold on to yourself here. You got to pull back and give it. Yeah, it's pretty cool here, Sly. Well, inside, you're just melting because you cannot believe where you're standing right now.
Great.
That's a great story.
And the thing is, these guys, they're just actors. That's all they are. They're flawed. They're fallible, just like all of us. They wake up every morning with messy hair, bad breath, and they got to go take a pee. We're all the same.
Yep.
They're kind of creative, and they did things in the movies that kind of set themselves apart. But if you think about it in those terms, they're just human. That's all they are. So once you get past the hero worship crap, and you can have a regular conversation, Stallone specifically, he's very aware of how he can affect people. So he's very calm, he's very laid back and kind of chill, actually, which makes it easy for people to talk to him, I guess.
I just think like one other thing with the whole Rocky series is, Paul's parents, my parents, like that age group, no Rocky. Our group, Kenny, Paul, we're all the pretty much same age. Obviously, we grew up with Rocky. Now you get to like my nephews at 6 and 8, and it's Rocky. Like it's just going to be there forever. I think. I mean that whole, no matter 20 years down the road, it's Rocky. Everyone's going to know Rocky, and I just think that's amazing. Like it's going to span so many years.
You bring up a good point, Kurt, because we get a lot of kids on the tours. And sometimes kids aren't interested. Sometimes they just want to know if I have Wi-Fi in the van they can connect to. But that's okay. I understand that. But every once in a while, I get a kid who's maybe 8, 9 years old, and they're really into Rocky. And as I'm talking to them, and I don't know what to expect, and they're like electric. I mean, they know it as well as we know it. And I'm really blown away by it. And so we get to the Rocky steps. That's usually the last place on the tour. So the kid gets out of the van and he bursts up the steps. He's running with everything he's got. And so me, mom, and dad, we're kind of behind a little bit. And they tell me why he's into Rocky so much. Because the kid had the rarest form of cancer. And he went through 2 rounds of chemo. And all he watched was Rocky 1 and Rocky 2 during the chemo drip. And he said, the mother said, we'll go anywhere you want. When you're cure the cancer, she said, we'll go to Paris, we'll go to wherever you want to go. And he said, I want to go to Philadelphia. I want to see where Rocky ran up the steps. And so adversity, Kurt, to your point, everybody's going to have adversity. Kids are going to have adversity. And so who better to get that across than Rocky? He's always going to be there. It's a great lesson. That's why I love the original Rocky so much. It's not about being the best in the world. It's about being the best in your world. That's the lesson I took from Rocky early on. And yes, you can adapt it any way you want for your personal growth. But for me, that's how I always saw the character of Rocky, far more humble. And a lot of other people do too. And whenever I get kids at a young age, I'm never not blown away by that. I'm just like, that's right. It's been so long since I was a kid. I forget what it was like at that age. They have their own struggles. So there you go. Well said.
Well,
any more rapid fires, Kurt? Or?
No, I'm good. I'm done with the rapid fires for Mike.
Mike, one question. I've always wanted to get another Rocky fan's opinion on this. We're talking about the movies and the series we think were flawed. And I think the 2 that may have come up the most were Rocky 4, Rocky 5. Now,
yeah.
I always look back, and I'm not a writer, but if you could go back and take one of those 2 movies and change something and make it better and put your little touch on it and say, wow, if this had happened, this movie would have been so much better. But some things are hard. Like I always felt like, could Rocky 4 have been pulled off if Apollo didn't die? And I was like, gee, I don't know, because like, what would the drama hook be? How would you have your villain? My thing with Rocky 4 was that I think Apollo's fight should have lasted a little longer in 2 rounds. Rocky 5, I don't know what the answer is, but how do you feel about making those 2 movies potentially better?
So Rocky 4 to me is just a product of the time. Stallone tapped into something incredible. He was very, very smart and spot on I mean, we all know Rocky IV was the largest grossing Rocky film. It's the most unbelievable and the most ridiculous in its scope, but it's also the largest grossing. So he taps into this jingoistic Reagan-style fever, USA versus Russia. They were the bad guys. I mean, still are the bad guys. But the thing is that I think Stallone tapped into, he realized, where are we going to, short of going intergalactic, this is as big as the Rocky universe can get. So, I mean, there was a little bit of goodwill that I'm sure Stallone wanted, but knowing Stallone, he probably wanted to see, how can we make this work for Rocky and how can we sell this? For me, I would like to try a hand at correcting Rocky V. And that sounds very pompous, I know, but I just think if Sly was a little more focused, by his own admission, he was somewhat scattered. He was a little late coming to set. He stayed in his trailer a little too long. He was on the cell phone in between shooting. So, and he was working on other projects. What's that?
And he didn't direct it.
No, John Avildsen did. And John Avildsen, he had some rather interesting ideas. There was something about ghosts being involved, and I heard some stories that I found I didn't expect that from John Avildsen, but they didn't go that way, and all the better. But did you guys ever see the director's cut or a director's edition of Rocky V?
No,
I did not.
It made a few rounds on YouTube for a while. I think it's been pulled down for copyright reasons. It was real raw, but they did have the whole movie, and there were scenes in there. I mean, the general flow of the movie is the same, but you did have some scenes. I'll tell you, there's a deleted scene from Rocky V where Rocky's drunk in the
bar, telling the pancake story.
Yeah, I couldn't watch it. It was like painful.
Yeah, that was a great scene, and everybody's looking at him like, what a loser. And then we see the end of that in Rocky V when Rocky comes out the door. He comes out the door of the bar backwards. He's got the smoke. If you look at Rocky's mouth, he's talking. He's still talking from the conversation of the deleted scene you just said. And what he's saying is, you don't know me. You don't know my pain, where I've been. I've been around the world. Now I'm back here again. And the way he portrayed Rocky V, I know it was brain damage, but it was almost a characterization of Rocky. I think it just fell a little flat. He sounded like every guy in a bar who ever tried to do Rocky when they were drunk. And I know what Sly was doing. I know he was going for that even slower than Rocky was. And he kind of accomplished that. But I think that bothered some people too. The worst thing about that scene I just mentioned was when Rocky was in the bar and he was telling the flapjack story. They're playing Michael, who's the singer?
Michael Bolton.
Michael Bolton's Back on My Feet Again. Whew. Talk about George Costanza and Michael Scott from The Office mashed together. Couldn't watch it. No good. Ooh. Bad.
Yeah, I don't know if I would change anything with Five, because like you said, with Rocky's brain damage, but
sure.
To see Rocky in the ring, but I understand why they didn't do it. But if he didn't have the brain damage in Five, I may have just wanted to see him fight Tommy in the ring.
I think I would like to see them work on the conveyance of brain damage.
Yeah.
You have to have the brain damage. I feel the conveyance. If he was to do Rocky V today, Stallone is so talented and gifted. Today, he could sell the brain damage in a way that was better than what he did in '89 when they filmed it, my opinion.
Right. You know what was crazy? And the brain damage isn't the only time that this happened, is that by the time Rocky Balboa came around, and I realized there was a gap between Rocky V and Rocky Balboa, the brain damage, never mentioned again. Rocky's bad eye in Rocky II, never mentioned again. Rocky Jr., who was about 9 at the end of Rocky IV, and the next day when Rocky V happened, he's like 14. Like, in some of your conversations with Stallone, did you ever have a chance to say, like, You realize you kind of made a boo-boo with that?
So that's on my list. My list is about 12.2 billion questions. And here's the good thing about Sylvester Stallone is the bad thing about Sylvester Stallone. When you ask him a question, he will give you a detailed answer. And that answer can last 2 minutes or 12 minutes for one question. And many times I don't know. I might have 2 seconds, 2 minutes, or an hour with them. I don't know. So I have to kind of, what is my peak questions that I want to get through? And for me, I'm about the minuscule, all the tiny things nobody notices. Nobody, I guarantee you, nobody would ask Sylvester Stallone what's in that brown paper bag. Here's another one that irked me for 25 years. When Adrian goes back to the apartment and Rocky, the original Rocky, and he reintroduces her to the turtles, takes them out of the bowl, puts them back in the bowl, and he goes over to the couch. As he leaves where he's standing, there's the 2 windows that he yells out, "Yo, Paulie!" Between the 2 windows, there's a hunting rifle hanging there. Did you ever notice that?
I never noticed that.
No.
Why is there a hunting rifle hanging there? Took me 25 years, but I asked him. And he goes, nobody ever asks about the gun. He goes, it's all about armament. Now, you guys have seen Rocky's apartment. He has the machete stuck in the wood. He hangs his hat on a brass-knuckled bayonet on the side of the window. The rolled-up mattress that he uses as a punching bag. He has a large buck hunting knife holding it into the wall, okay? Rocky sees that armament as art. He said it doesn't matter how Rocky acquired the gun. That doesn't matter. Rocky has it because he feels there's an art to it. Like you all have your pictures, I got my Rocky stuff, that's my art, right? Well, that gun is Rocky's art. And he takes a puff of his cigar, he blows his smoke out, and he goes, the other reason the gun is there, he goes, that gun's been handed down from father to son in my family. He goes, I put it up like an Easter egg. I go, really? There you go. The gun.
And you can confirm this real quick. Cuff and Link are still alive, I believe, the 2 turtles.
Okay, so here's the biggest controversy in the Rocky universe. So in Creed, I'll say Creed 1, but I know for a fact. In Creed 2, when Stallone puts on his Instagram, guess who's back? And it's him and the turtles in the tank behind him. Now, 2 days after that picture was up, the gentleman who owns Adrian's pet shop, he messages me and he goes, Stallone's lying. That's not the turtles. I have the turtles. Cuff and Link all this time. So this guy is 80 years old and he's a very nice man. I see him every once in a while. He's told me a lot of stories. He's got some great pictures with him and Sly together when Sly was filming the early Rocky movies. So I don't know. Is he right? I don't know. I can't confirm either way.
Paul, you want to get into some current news?
Sure. I think we already touched about the Creed 3 and the Rocky 4 director's cut. I know we're all anxiously waiting that.
Yeah.
What have you been hearing about this other Rocky spinoff, this Rocky 7, where Rocky's going to train somebody else? And sounds like it was given a go and that it's maybe at least partially written. What do you know about it? How you feel about another Rocky movie coming out?
I asked Stallone directly, not going to happen. He wrote about 80 some pages, and the Hollywood machine is governed by those who don't care to pursue that avenue, from what he told me. What you said of the plot is pretty accurate. I don't know that I wanted to see that plot. I don't think I wanted to. But on the other side, there are two characters I would like to see in every single movie that is made from here on out. I would like to see Napoleon Dynamite in every movie. I'd like to see him in the background just dancing, vote for Pedro shirt. And I want to see Rocky in every movie, just buying a coffee at a Starbucks somewhere, maybe walking out of a bookstore. Because originally in Rocky Balboa, Creed, in Creed 1, when Stallone was contributing ideas, he had thought about Rocky getting a book. He was coming out of a bookshop in South Philly, and he wasn't feeling particularly well. He was having certain pains. And as he was exiting the bookshop, he kind of took a bit of a tumble or a spill. So things like that I love. I'm a big Napoleon Dynamite makes me laugh like the Three Stooges make me laugh. So I wish we could see Napoleon Dynamite in every movie and Rocky, but I don't think we're going to see Sly resurrect Rocky. But then again, yeah, he says he wants nothing to do with Creed 3, but if they offer him enough money, maybe he will. Who knows?
I guess I have another to add on to that. What would you want to be the final chapter, the final closure with Rocky? Whether it's a Rocky or Creed, anything else, or are you happy right now the way Creed 2 ended? Are you content with, okay, that's it? Or do you want one more? And if you do, how would you want it to end with Rocky?
I don't want any more Rockies. Kurt, that's a really great question. And people ask me all the time, and they're always shocked at my answer. I personally want to have my own viewing of a new Rocky every week, just in my little Rocky room here, okay? I don't want to share it with anybody. I just want to be the only one that gets to see it. I was content at the end of Rocky Balboa. When Rocky goes to see Adrian and he walks away, he turns to the camera and he waves goodbye. He just fades into the tapestry of Philadelphia. He's out there in the ether, just floating around. Rocky's never going to die. He's never going to go away, and he's never going to get any older. To me, that was the most brilliant, beautiful ending that this character deserved. Then, Creed. All right. I was against it from the beginning until I spent a little bit of time on set, talked to some of the people, and I was like pretty blown away. All right. We see Rocky climbing the steps. He's battling through his cancer, chemo, whatever. And, okay. I was a little flat at the ending of Creed. I liked Creed, the movie. It was the better of the two Creeds. Now you come to a second closing. What else are we going to ask of Rocky? He's back with his son. He's back with Logan, his grandson, who looks just like Talia Shire. I mean, Rocky's so happy. Maybe Rocky comes back and forth. Maybe he still runs the restaurant. Maybe he's still hanging around telling old fight stories. Or maybe he moves to Vancouver. Maybe he doesn't need it anymore. We got two beautiful endings for Rocky. So I say, as a fan, take your pick what you prefer.
Okay.
Could you see, as this is again just it's going backwards now a little bit, or current news we could say, could you see maybe like a prequel where you have a young Rocky and, leading up to, the end of like the beginning of like Rocky 1 at the end of the movie, like Rocky through his childhood and Rocky through his, high school, college days, or, those that age group when he's in high school, like, can you see like that kind of story?
So, one, how do you get a young Sylvester Stallone? Sure, you could find a teenager, you could find a 22-year-old, sure. But they're not Sylvester Stallone. They'd be too young to understand the nuances of life that you need as Rocky to make that happen, to feel for Rocky in the way that we did. Two, they're not going to have Stallone's voice. They could do an impersonation, or they could do what I do, which is an interpretation of Rocky. But I would, and I love your idea, Kenny. I do. I talk about this all the time. My concept would be a book. I would like Stallone to write a book about it, everything you're saying. A big Harry Potter book, this thick, that I could kill a shark with if I had to. A giant book. That I would love to read. Now, Stallone did say he did and does have in the back of his mind thoughts about a prequel-like concept where we see how Rocky and Adrian met as teenagers. And we see as a teenager, Rocky is sitting in the nosebleed section as Apollo Creed fights in Philly and is coming up the ranks. He's not champion yet, but he's coming up the ranks. So we see Rocky sitting in the spectrum watching the rise of Apollo Creed. So there's some great imagery there. Now, a friend of mine from the UK, his name is Carl, he has written a script called Angel on My Shoulder, and it's the Mickey Goldmill Origins script. And if you're a fan of origin stories like I am, this is the script you want to see made of Mickey. It's literally based on Mickey's explosion and Rocky's explosion in his apartment. You see, they got me here, Sailor Mike. Put so many holes in my cheek to spit. That whole scene, he's made an entire script out of. It's amazing. And we don't see Rocky until the end when Rocky and Mickey meet when Rocky's a kid. Like, it's fantastic. It's all about Mickey. Gazzo's father is the local crime guy. Father Carmine as a young priest is there. Oh, it's freaking amazing. I wish this movie would get made.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
That would be really good.
This script, it's, even though I'm not a huge fan of the character of Adonis, I do acknowledge Creed was very good. So as far as what it could have been a disaster. But Ryan Coogler had a lot of love for the character of Creed and Rocky. So I think if someone was to make the Mickey movie, it will have to be handled with someone that has that love for the character. They have to. It could go so wrong.
They got to bring the passion, and I think one of the things that may have helped with Creed being as successful as it was is you had Stallone not just in the film, but he was like the creative advisor too. So I mean, and those guys were fans. Stephen Capel will bring it to a whole story. Like, he's just like us. He grew up watching the movie. His father's like, hey, watch this. Good workout music, whatever, So he was he's a fan at heart, and that's where the passion comes from. It's funny. I just had to throw one comment in because when you said they were shooting that idea down, I almost find that crazy because I know people would pay money to see this movie. Whether we sit here and say, yay, we want it, or no, we don't.
Oh, Rocky 7?
Tomorrow, Rocky 7. We'd all go out and see it somehow. And that's amazing that the studio actually gave him a thumbs down on that.
I wish I could say more, but
that's amazing. I hadn't heard that one yet. And I know the internet, I take everything with a grain of salt on the internet, but for months we've been hearing this story about this supposed Rocky sequel and all this. And
it's very frustrating, and I try to you have to let that go. Nobody has control over that, so you just have to. When I get frustrated at it, I just go back and watch Rocky 1.
Yeah.
And then my wife comes home and she says, can we watch like The Sopranos or something? Because she has to live with it.
Paul, let's do this before we get to, and again, Mike, you've been incredible tonight. Before we get to our Mount Rushmores, can you give us your best Rocky Balboa? First, just a couple of lines of Rocky Balboa.
Yo, Paulie, your sister's with me. I'll call you back later. See ya.
Mike, has anyone ever tossed this idea out there? We're all fans, of course, and all these series and stuff, you go from Star Wars to The Sopranos to every superhero movie. They all got these conventions, these Comic Cons, and now they got Sopranos cons. I think Rocky lends itself so well to a Rocky Con. I think you could even be a part of it, obviously, and I've never heard anybody talk about it. I don't know if it's something, I think Stallone would have to okay it. I don't know if he could be there because he's a little too big. But even if you pulled in like 4 guys, if you pulled in like a Carl Weathers and a Mr. T and a Dolph Lundgren, you could really create a great fan experience. I feel it's something that should happen.
I think those guys, the last 3 years, they just started doing these Comic-Cons. So I think something like that's going to happen. Unfortunately, I think it's going to happen maybe a little too late. I don't see it happening anytime soon. It could, but I saw what happened with the Sopranos convention. Poor Paulie Walnuts, he's almost incoherent now. You know what I mean? Gandolfini's gone. So it breaks my heart to think that a Comic-Con like this wouldn't happen, a Rocky Con. It could happen. It should happen. I was approached by several people over the years to be involved, but you gotta have the connections. And yeah, I'm connected to Stallone, but not in a. It just, I don't know. You gotta need somebody big to bring in somebody big, you know. And so maybe someday it'll happen. It's a great idea, though.
All right, let's get to the Mount Rushmores, Paul.
Okay.
Who goes first? Does Mike go first or does Mike go last, Paul?
So we have to tell Mike what it is, right?
All right, Mike goes last.
Well, you have to tell him what it is, right? Does he know what it is?
Okay, our Mount Rushmore tonight is just going to be your 4 favorite, Rocky movie, Rocky, Creed, your top 4.
My top 4. So what are we saying? Actors from these movies, and they're going to represent the
movies themselves.
Movies themselves.
Let's let you go last. We'll give ours. You can think about yours.
All right, I'm thinking about this.
I'll go first.
Go ahead, Kenny.
I'll get mine out of the way. Obviously, number 1 on my list is Rocky 1. Number 2, and I'm going to Mike might cringe on this, is Rocky 4 because that was the first one I seen in the movies. And back then, you were able to see 3 movies in a day. You'd sneak in one movie theater, go to the next. Rocky was the first one that I seen that day. Can't remember the other 2, but got to see 3 movies that day. So Rocky 4, Rocky 2, and Rocky 3 are 3 and 4.
All right, I'll go next, Kenny. Mine's gonna be a little. I don't know. Paul's not gonna agree with me. I know that. My favorite one, hands down, Rocky 3. The first Rocky I've ever seen in the movie theater, but just in general, just my overall is my favorite one. I'm with Kenny. My second one was Rocky 4. I am a fan of Rocky 4. My number 3 is the original Rocky, and my number 4 is Rocky Balboa. And I just don't know if it was when he just walks out of the ring at the end with, like you're saying, how he's, the perfect ending of him walking out. But that movie to me, it was just like, I don't know. There's something about that one. So Rocky 3, Rocky 4, Rocky Balboa for me.
Beautiful.
I was considering putting Rocky the musical on my. No, I'm only kidding.
Have you seen that? It was great.
Is it good? I
haven't seen it.
It was excellent.
I was always concerned because it didn't seem like it got a good run. I would have been curious to see it, but so here's my 4. Okay. I got to go Rocky 1, the original. I still think it's got the most charm of all of them. I'm going to also put Creed 1 up there. I just thought Stallone's acting I thought he did a great job, and they pulled off a movie that, we all had some doubts about. Rocky Balboa would be on my top 4. To the points that were made up before, I thought it was the ending. It was the perfect way to cap that off. Really just kind of hit home with the emotions, the drama. I mean, it just, to me, I thought it was the perfect send-off. And then I'm going to put Rocky 3 on there because it was, again, for me, the first one I saw in a theater. I thought Rocky 3 for the time, too, had this great blend of, not just action, but, drama with Mickey dying, the humor, the pairing up with a former rival. It just brought a lot of cool things together, a great villain.
Yeah.
And that environment I saw it in with the crazy people in the theater just made, never forget it. It's like a 12-year-old, and it's still embedded in my brain, the whole experience.
Now here comes the real Mount Rushmore.
Here's
the real
Mount
Rushmore.
I want to see how many I got correct here.
Kurt, here's the thing. I used to be so belligerent. If people didn't see the Rocky movies like I saw them, hired a hitman to take you out. But I've since matured and mellowed. So I've understood, and largely because of my tours, these Rocky movies, like anything in life, is so personal. Where you are at any given point in your life, you go to see a Rocky movie, you're bringing all your baggage with you when you put the money down for the ticket and your butt is in that seat. And whatever you got going on in your mind, it's going to be influenced by how you see Rocky. So it's very personal. Clearly, with all your sports stuff on your desk in your room, I see you're a sports guy, Kurt. Mm-hmm. Of course, Rocky IV is going to be at the top of your list and Rocky III. I'm a hopeless romantic. For me, it's Rocky I, Rocky II, Rocky Balboa, Rocky III. That's how I see the movies. If it was a choice, 2 movies, Rocky I, Rocky Balboa, bookends. In the gift shop, around the entrance to the door in stone, I might throw Creed. Awesome. You got great choices, but it's all very personal. It's all very personal.
It is.
I guess I'm a romantic and a sports guy because I had 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, Kenny, to your point, which when we first started talking, you were amazed at how well the Rocky series has lasted for so long and people still love it. You said it perfectly. It's for the sports guy, the sports girl, the romantic guy, the romantic girl. That's life. What else is there? And there's competition at work. There's competition at love, competition in families. And then there's love. So you see, I think the two pair, they marry almost perfectly.
Yeah, perfect marriage.
There really is no wrong answer here. I mean, you know.
By the way, our deleted segment tonight was trivia. I was going to do a trivia segment, but Paul said no. Mike knows everything about Rocky.
No, guys, you know what? Listen, I got about 5 minutes left. If you want to ask some trivia, let's go ahead. I forget things, and sometimes I don't know things.
Well, I'll just tell you. Well, I'll just tell you this, Mike. We do a segment on our show, and it's called "What's That Line?" And I always say, I want my brother-in-law Paul on me because when he's chiming in, because he has all the answers. And the question, I don't know if Kenny's going to ask you this, but I got asked this question. I was like, I have no idea. I'm going to Paul. And Paul didn't let me down. He had it right in there on the comment.
Let's ask that question. I know Mike will probably get it. Go ahead, Kurt. What was
you got? You
know the question. It was the robe in Rocky 1. You got the question right, Paul. What was?
What did it say on the back of Rocky's robe? The one that was too baggy.
Oh yeah, Shamrock meats.
Yeah, we were struggling with that one for some reason. We couldn't
really.
Get Shamrock out. I knew it was. I was like, I'm Irish too. It's like, why didn't I know this? Like, I know it's Shamrock meats.
Shamrock meats.
I'm thinking clover. I'm like, wait a minute. I know the robe. Like, why can't I think Shamrock?
I'm even kind of. I mean, I did know that, but I'm sort of cheating. The robe's hanging right over here on my door. So now, do you guys remember what was Rocky's goldfish's name in Rocky?
Moby Dick.
Yeah, Moby Dick.
Yeah, that's good.
And do you know who he sold Butkus to before he wrote Rocky?
Oh, I remember.
Or before he sold Rocky.
He was so destitute for money that he sold Butkus, and then he bought him back. But I don't know who he sold him to.
So he went to a 7-Eleven. He sold Butkus to a gentleman who walked in. He was a little person. He sold him for $40, and then he goes to get the dog back because there's not enough money in the script to buy like all the clothes Stallone wore. All Rocky's clothes were Sylvester's clothes. He had no money to buy his own clothes or to buy clothes for the character. There was no wardrobe allowance. All the other actors, they bought their own clothes. So Stallone, the leather jacket was his. Well, he wrote the scene with Butkus, and there's no money for a Hollywood-trained dog to do stunts or whatever. So he's got to get the dog back. So he goes to the guy, and he goes, hey, listen, here's the scenario. And the guy says, well, my kids are really attached to the dog. It's been 2 months now, and they love this dog. How about $1,500 I get the dog back? And Sly's like, well, it doesn't work that way. I didn't get paid the big money yet. He goes, I don't know if I'm going to get big money. He goes, how about I write a role for you? I'll give you a couple dollars and I write a role for you in the movie. And he goes, all right, we could do that. Mickey's helper, Mike. It ain't your locker no more. It's Dipper's locker. What are you talking about in my locker? In my locker for 6 years. Mickey told me to bag it and hang it. You put myself in a bag on Skid Row? He tells me what to do. I got to do, right, Rock? Where is he? He's on the floor, but he's in a bad mood. So am I. I love Rocky.
Jimmy Gambino bought Butkus?
Jimmy Gambino bought Butkus. And Jimmy Gambino was Butkus's wrangler on the set of Rocky because Stallone is in every scene. So he can't be with the dog. He can't leave the dog in the hotel room. He's got to bring the dog on set with him every day. And there's archival video with Gambino holding Butkus, like the rope, as Stallone is doing the I should have broke your thumb scene on the brick road with Gazzo and Buddy. Great story.
It's amazing.
Any other last trivia bits for Mike before we wrap up?
Oh, you got to have something good off the top of your head.
I'll try this one. I don't think I can stump Mike, but I'm going to give it my puncher's chance.
Yeah, you got to.
All right. So Mike, in Rocky 3, the role. I'm going to make it kind of 2 parts for Rocky 3.
Okay.
But this one I think you'll get no problem. What's Clubber Lang's first name?
Yeah. So James.
Yeah. It's
course.
tough because they don't actually say it in the movie.
Right.
So initially, Stallone was eyeing a guy to play Clubber Lang who was a real boxer before he settled on Mr. T. Do you remember who that boxer was?
So Ernie Shavers hit Sylvester Stallone so hard, he spoke to dead relatives. And when Joe Frazier auditioned for the role, Joe Frazier gave him a 2-inch scar on his face, cut him open. Wow. Joe Frazier was going to potentially be a boxer in 3, but it just didn't work out that way.
Wow.
Crazy.
All right. Anything else? Again, Mike.
Pleasure.
Awesome interview.
So
awesome. I mean, the information, it's like you could be here for hours. Like, what about this? What about that? It's phenomenal. You were phenomenal.
We'll have a seat. We'll have our own sequel one night.
Yeah. And you know what? Honestly, things get better. Listen, I know I want to go to this Rocky tour. I mean, it's.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely when things clear up a little bit, we'll definitely set that up with Kurt's nephews.
Yeah.
They'll be in awe. Like they'll be starstruck.
Yeah, bring them down. Do the whole thing. We'll have fun once the restaurant opens up. My friends own the Victor Cafe. There's a whole other story. Oh God, there's so many stories I haven't told you. But the Victor Cafe, of course, was Adrian's. And so, we'll go in for dinner and the big painting is on the back wall like it was in the movie. Like this painting right here. I don't know if you can see. It's the
Yep.
Yeah, the Leroy Neiman. So they have a replica like that at the restaurant, and the owners will come over and they'll tell you great stories from filming, what it was like down there, and how Stallone would buy crab legs for everybody during filming. It was good stuff. You'll have a good time.
All right. And what's the website? I had it up throughout the night though, but if you want to just give it out there real quick, so anyone can go to.
It's the Yo Philly Rocky Film Tour, and as far as social media goes, find me on Instagram under the tour's name. The Yo Philly Rocky Film Tour. I'm very active on Instagram. Sly follows me and he likes to comment on some of the stuff I post. So you never know if a picture where you come up, he may say something.
Hey, they love it.
Mike, if it's in your room, before we go off, do you have the fedora? Can you put the fedora on?
Yeah, hang on. Don't go away.
I love it.
Hang on a second. Here, I'll turn it around. All right. You see that gray head way here in the distance? Wait, where is it? Right there, the gray head with the black hat.
Okay.
This is going to be great.
Okay, so.
There it
ain't
is.
about how hard you can hit.
That's it.
It ain't about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
By the way, and my last note on that is I'm a huge Alan Hahn fan. He works ESPN 98.7. He actually came on our show and it's one of my
Really?
favorite guys I listen to. And the intro to his show is that line right there.
Is it really?
Yes, it is. That line, that little sequence right there is how he opens up his show. So when you said that, I love it.
Probably the greatest speech in the world, because when you think about that, that's what life is. It's very easy to ride the winner's wave, but when you lose and you're crushed, you could either blame people and point fingers at everybody else, or you could accept that responsibility and accountability and say, okay, I've done this. I'm going to dig myself out and move forward as best I can. And it's not so easy. So that I gotta, of all the speeches out there, you could take maybe Ben Kenobi's speech about the Force. You could talk maybe Quint's speech from Jaws, or Michael Corleone's speech. It's not personal, Tom. It's business. You could take any of that stuff. I think It Ain't About How Hard You Can Hit captures life everywhere perfectly.
All right, Mike, again, I want to personally thank you for coming on.
Thanks,
Awesome.
guys.
Thank you, Mike.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And YouTube and Facebook tomorrow night, Kurt, right?
Yeah, tomorrow night I'll have this on YouTube and Facebook. So that was it. And hopefully we get some comments. I'll share it. Everyone share it up. And that's it. Hope everyone loves it like we love it.
Tell the fans, too, cue the Rocky music, get the book, and watch The Pretender. Because if you're a Rocky fan, you're going to love The Pretender. And
I'm going to watch it tonight, actually.
Yeah.
I'm hooked on it already. I'm like, that's my movie tonight to watch.
Yeah, watch The Pretender on Amazon. We literally in April 2nd, Stallone endorsed it, and I was so grateful. In 24 hours, we had 52,000 downloads of The Pretender. It was unbelievable, and that was in 24 hours.
Wow.
It's been 2.5 or 3 months. I don't even know how many. It's been watched a lot. Enjoy it. It really is. It's a good, quirky, feel-good documentary. There's a lot of heavy stuff out there about drug use and addictions and all kind of problems, people killing tigers and all kind of nut jobs. This is just a happy, just feel-good thing. My family, they're funny and quirky, and my father's wacky. My wife is incredibly supportive. So when you watch it, please leave your thoughts, and hopefully people won't be too brutal to me on this. Hopefully people will appreciate this tonight.
We will, Mike.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mike.
guys.
Thank you for joining.
Thanks, Mike.
You got it, guys. Best of luck.
Best of luck. See you soon.